Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc.
The Dominica government rejects a recommendation for re-registration ahead of elections. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Friday, September 27th from the CMC News Center in Bridgetown. I'm Carl Roberts. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. The Dominica government says it cannot accept a suggestion from overseas electoral officials that a house-to-house re-verification exercise should be conducted to ensure a clean voters list ahead of elections. In fact, it says such an exercise would be a waste of time and money. The suggestion was contained in a 12-page report on electoral reform submitted by a joint special mission comprising officials from the CARICOM Secretariat, the London-based Commonwealth Secretariat, and the Organization of American States, who visited the island between August 6th and 9th this year. The mission had been invited by the Roosevelt-Skerritt administration to assist in the country's efforts at electoral reform as the country prepares for a general election which is constitutionally due by March next year, but widely expected to take place later this year. Speaking on state-owned DBS Radio, Attorney General Levi Peter says the report will have the unacceptable impact of causing the state to incur significant increased financial, human, and other resource costs for no real reform or improvement in the electoral process. He added that Dominica would essentially be in exactly the same place with respect to the voters list.
Recommendations contained in the report. In particular, in relation to the recommended house-to-house re-verification exercise. The government's reasons are detailed fully in its written response to the joint mission. In summary, the government is of the view that the recommendations, in particular in relation to re-verification, are unworkable and, if implemented, will cause confusion and disruption, contrary to best practice, and, importantly, will not result in the required updating of the register, otherwise known as cleansing of the list.
The Attorney General added that the government is of the firm view that the draft amendment bills and the confirmation process proposed in those bills provide the best means of securing credible and workable and lawful electoral reform, which will deliver mandatory issuance and use of photo ID for updating and cleansing the list. Meantime, Prime Minister Roosevelt-Skerritt says opposition leader Lennox Linton's call for a campaign of civil disobedience to push for electoral reform will lead to chaos across the island, and he says it could also have economic implications for the country. On Wednesday, in addition to calling for electoral reform, Linton said the United Workers' Party wanted authorities to probe allegations that $1.2 billion EC dollars had gone missing from the controversial Citizenship by Investment program. He said plans to stage a peaceful gathering outside the official residence of President Charles Savarin next Monday to present a formal complaint requesting that he intervene. But Prime Minister Skerritt said Linton's plan is a deliberate attempt to seek to undermine the opportunities and the well-being of Dominicans.
The tourism season is coming up. If you allow the country to descend into a chaotic situation, the first thing you're going to have is a travel advisory in Dominica. A travel advisory in Dominica has implications for the economic well-being of a country. Tourists would not want to come to a country if they believe that they are not safe. And when a political leadership is calling for it, people take it even more seriously. So the vendors who are on the roadside in the valley and in Soufriere and in Roseau and in Emerald Pool and the Canago territory, all of these people who are relying on the tourist dollar, they run the risk of losing that because of Mr. Linton's call for civil disobedience and unrest in our country.
Last month, Prime Minister Skerritt, speaking at the launch of a candidate for his ruling Dominica Labour Party, brushed aside the allegations that the $1.2 billion EC dollars was missing under the CBI. And he says the opposition leader's argument on the alleged missing funds is based on misinformation. He added that Linton is seeking to confuse the people and to bring confusion in the country.
If every law-abiding, every conscientious, concerned Dominican needs to put aside partisanship and condemn this thing. I mean, where in the world, a leader of opposition would call for civil disobedience? Civil disobedience means you break the law, you trample on the rights of citizens, irrespective of who the citizens are, you disrespect people. Is that what we want for our country? That you have a leader of opposition who is unable to articulate a policy, a vision? A country is not built by confusion. A country is built by a vision and a plan. And unfortunately, Mr. Linton does not have a vision, and neither does he have a plan. What does he do? He's sowing seeds of confusion and seeds of disruption.
In other news now, the Bahamas government has approved lump sum payments for public servants affected by Hurricane Dorian. A memorandum sent out on Thursday from the Ministry of Public Service and National Insurance revealed that a $1,000 lump sum payment will be made to all government workers affected by the record storm, with a $2,600 payout for those who have been relocated. There will also be hardship allowance granted on a case-by-case basis. Now, the Category 5 Dorian ravaged the islands of Grand Bahama and Abaco from September 1st to the 3rd. Prior to the storm, government had agreed to an $800 lump sum payment to the Bahamas Public Service Union's estimated 20,000 members. But last week, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Peter Turnquest said that that had been put on hold. And the Bahamas is the only CARICOM country reporting a confirmed case of measles up to the period January to September 25th this year. The Pan American Health Organization said a total of 6,541 confirmed cases of measles, including 5 deaths, have been reported in 14 countries and territories of the region of the Americas. Now, apart from the Bahamas, the only other Caribbean country included in the report is the Dutch island of Curacao, where there is also 1 case. Now, according to PAHO, Brazil has the highest number of cases at 4,476, followed by United States, which has 1,241 cases. Trinidad and Tobago's Police Commissioner Gary Griffith is appealing to the relevant authorities to reconsider the minimal bail clause in light of a case in which a man who was recently charged for possession of 9 fully automatic weapons of war together with magazines was granted bail. Griffith says several assault rifles in the wrong hands can cause an increase in crime.
Apprehended in possession of these types of weapons, the present criminal justice system appears flawed and at times favoring the criminal elements rather than the potential victim. When granted bail, these offenders can very well access another illegal firearm to continue attacking the state and law-abiding citizens.
The top cop says that while he recognizes that the bail amendment bill recently passed was made with good intentions, it is still effective in its current form.
The previous law prior to the sunset clause worked, whereby if held, the offending party would be without bail. As such, the likelihood of being allowed the opportunity to acquire additional weaponry or even the potential for a vengeance move is effectively blocked. As a result of the recent parliamentary adjustment to this clause, persons held with illegal firearms, be it 1 or 9, handheld or semi-automatic, they are afforded access to bail once they do not have a previous conviction. At some point, whilst adhering to the law, the gloves must come off. In apprehending persons, is it that we must now hope that they would have a previous conviction for an illegal activity, such as being in possession of numerous illegal automatic weapons, before we keep such elements off the street? Why would someone have such an arsenal in their possession illegally? How are the officers of the TTPS to function effectively when they believe that they are operating with a revolving door that seems to benefit the perpetrator?
You're watching Caribbean Newsline. After the break, Caribbean leaders make a case for urgent action on climate change in their address to the UN General Assembly. Stay with us.
We went round Cape Horn, and then there was, the possibility of some options opening up for us to be able to pick up some ground. So I decided to go for it.
Turning up and going up past the Falklands, it got a bit busy. There's only been a few times in my life that it's been that rough.
Several Caribbean leaders on Friday made their contributions to the 74th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Now, they spoke with one voice to call on the international community to put policies and adequate financing in place to deal with climate change and its effects on small island developing states. In her address to the gathering, Barbados' Prime Minister Mia Mottley said denying the existence of climate change does not diminish its reality, and she reminded the international community that the recent destruction caused by Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas represents an unfortunate new climate normal. She called for an international order that recognizes there must be different policy prescriptions to suit the circumstances facing all members of the global community.
An equitable and just international order that is truly built on the principles of justice and fairness for all and not just for some. A United Nations that recognizes that as 74 years old, we must be able to have difficult conversations as mature people and solve them. Many in the developing world were persuaded or required to abandon policies that were designed for the majority of our population to be transformed. And those policies were fashioned to adopt a consensus that was settled in Washington, D.C. and named thereafter. And that ultimately, regrettably, was about the consolidation of wealth in the hands of a very few.
And Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness reiterated a call for concessionary financing for CARICOM countries. He said the present policy was severely hampering the socio-economic growth of highly indebted middle-income countries such as those in the 15-member regional grouping.
Current policies that govern access to concessional financing windows do not allow us to access sufficient, affordable, long-term financing for SDG investments, and our capacity to mobilize public resources domestically is limited by our small size and vulnerability. This touches on the issue of graduation criteria, which do not take account of the range of vulnerabilities facing middle-income countries. Our economies face further challenges from de-risking and the attendant problems of the loss of correspondent banking relations, which severely impede access to essential financial services.
Meanwhile, St. Kitts and Nevis Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris, in his address to the UN meeting, accused developed countries of causing climate change, saying their actions have resulted in clear and present danger to small and developing nations. He said developing countries are forced to speak out because of the existential vulnerabilities that they suffer in the face of this growing threat.
Let us be absolutely clear. Climate change is a product of developed nations' push for economic growth and industrialization. For far too long, and with far-reaching consequences, rich countries have been allowed to emit greenhouse gases unimpeded. Yet the brunt of climate change is borne by developing nations. Small states such as St. Kitts and Nevis find themselves on the front line of a war they did not start and we do not want. This is unfair and unjust.
Trinidad celebrates parang music, and dancehall artist Busy Signal prepares to launch his new album. Mary Claire Williams has the details in this week's Newsline Entertainment.
Trinidad ended a month-long celebration of parang this week. The traditional folk music is mainly performed at Christmas time. And as part of this month's events, the public has been learning more about the history of parang. Alicia Jagasar is the president of the National Parang Association of Trinidad and Tobago. She says the art form has evolved over the years.
You find that the steel pan, our national instrument, is also being integrated and accepted into the parang. So we would have seen the addition of keyboards and a lot of Latin-influenced instrumentation fusing with our traditional instruments like the cuatro and the marac in the evolution of the art form.
Jagasar, who is also the lead singer of Los Alumnos de San Juan, says they would like to extend parang beyond Christmas.
We are going to show that we are more than just Christmas. We are here for Carnival also, and our bands will be presenting calypso and soca songs in Latin style, in Spanish, for you to enjoy.
Dancehall artist Busy Signal will release his long-awaited new album, Parts of the Puzzle, on October 4. It features the popular hits Stay So, One Way, Dollar Van, and Got to Tell You. The album also features Bounty Killer, DJ Josie Wales, and Afrobeats artist Afro B. The 17-track album is his fifth to date. Busy, whose real name is Riano Gordon, began his dancehall career as a member of Bounty Killer's Alliance crew in the early 2000s. In 2005, he became a solo artist with the hit Step Out. Mary Claire Williams, Newsline Entertainment.
And ahead in sports, sprint sensation Brianna Williams withdraws from the Jamaica team for the IAAF Championships in Doha. Stay with us. Sport is next.
Jump, 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 jump,
I'm lost. I went in the woods to find a good spot to film them, and I just lost my position. I didn't put M&Ms to track my trail on the way back. Foolish mistake. Yeah, I hear traffic behind me, but that could be miles away. If I don't make it out here alive, tell him I'm a lover. It's gotta be strong.
Make it what you want. Make it what you want. Make it what you want. Make what you want.
As a small business owner, you have to make sure your technology is available and operational at all times. But what happens when your network crashes, your email goes down, or your user systems get a virus? You may try to fix the issue yourself, but you can end up making the problem a lot worse. At Digital Networking Solutions, we're more than just people who try to fix your computers. We monitor, maintain, and support your IT systems so that you can focus on growing your business to its fullest potential. When you sign up for one of our IT support plans, we get familiar with your IT environments beforehand, so we can manage it proactively as if it were our own. Your business deserves the best IT services available to ensure it functions to its maximum efficiency. So give us a try today. Email or call us, and we will give you a free network assessment to determine whether now is the time for your small business to adopt Digital Networking Solutions for a smoother, more reliable network experience.
Sprint sensation Brianna Williams has withdrawn from Jamaica's team for the IAAF World Championships, which started in Doha on Friday, citing insufficient preparation time after escaping serious punishment on Thursday for a doping violation. Her coach, former Olympic star Otto Bolden, had indicated Thursday she would be down to run in the 100 meters, but the preliminaries of the marquee event are scheduled to get underway at 4:30 p.m. That's Saturday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Caribbean time, which left Williams with a race against time. The 17-year-old tested positive for a banned substance last June, but a disciplinary panel ruled this week the action had not been deliberate and opted to reprimand her with no period of ineligibility, clearing her to join the national team already in Qatar. But hours after the decision was handed down, the reigning double sprint world junior champion announced she would not participate in the September 27th to October 6th games. Williams, who won triple gold at the sprints at the CaribVision Championships in 2018 and 2019, said her focus is now on the Olympics in Tokyo next year. To cricket now, South African J.P. Domini lashed the fastest ever 50 in Caribbean Premier League history, while rookie leg spinner Hayden Walsh snatched his maiden 5-wicket haul as Barbados Tridents won their first game in 9 attempts with a convincing 63-run victory over favourites Trinbago Knight Riders on Thursday night. Now choosing to bat first, they piled up a challenging 192 for 5 off their 20 overs, their second highest CPL total at the Oval, with Domini top scoring with a scintillating 65 off just 20 balls. The left-hander raced to his 50 off just 15 deliveries, eclipsing Evan Lewis's 17-ball effort earlier in the tournament in Basseterre. Overall, he punched 4 fours and 7 sixes. Walsh then sided through TKR with a spell of 5 for 19 from 4 overs as TKR never came to terms with a difficult runs chase in their first full game in 9 days and folded for 129 with 14 balls remaining. With the victory, Tridents moved back into playoff contention and are now 4th in the 6th team standings on 6 points. Zouks are 1 point behind in 5th, with Jamaica Tallowers bottom on 4 points. To the women's game now, the regional side will play host to India in the Colonial Medical Insurance Home Series starting from November 1st to the 20th. Both teams will clash in 3 one-day internationals and 5 T20s, with matches to be played in Antigua, St. Lucia and Guyana. The Indian women will arrive in the Caribbean on October 28th ahead of the first ODI on November 1st to be played at the Sir Vivian Richards Cricket Ground in Antigua's 38th independence anniversary. Now, all 3 matches of the ODI series will be played in Antigua, with the other 2 matches on the 3rd and 6th. The 5 T20 series will be played across 2 countries. The first 2 matches to be played at the Dorian Cricket Stadium in St. Lucia on November 9th and 10th, and then 3 matches, 3, 4, and 5, will be played at Providence on November 14th, 17th, and the 20th. Now, the West Indies women will be looking to bounce back from a recent home defeat to number 1 ranked Australia women. They suffered 3-0 defeats in both the ODI and T20 series. Points accrued in this series all count towards the ICC Women's Championship 2017 to 2021. Switching sports now, a former technical director of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association has been awarded over $5 million TT for being wrongfully dismissed in 2015. In a ruling handed down by Justice Joan Charles at the High Court on Friday, the TTFA was ordered to pay Kendall Walks the sum of $783,000 after he sued the Football Association for breaching his contractual arrangement. The TTFA claimed that they terminated his contract following correspondence from world governing body FIFA, which had cited concerns about Walks' compensation package while the TTFA had been facing financial difficulties. It was also alleged that the contract was invalid, but in her judgment, Justice Charles said she had no problems finding that a valid contract existed between Walks and the TTFA, and that Walks complied with the terms and conditions outlined in the agreement. The judge added that Walks was entitled to $65,000 for several months of the contract from March 2015 to April 2016, and an additional $250,000 from April 2016 to March 2018. And that's the sports. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Right now, we have the second round lineup for you, right? So the artists are here and they're ready. I'm not going to waste any time, right? Big Dog, you ready? Ready. Juba, you ready? All right, DJ, lock the cage.
Yeah, I'm aiming at you with the scope. Come through, tie you up with rope. There's no hope. When I come through, man, lose your patience. You know we've been waiting for something.
Real Dandada when me step on the rhythm, and everybody know what Juba done in this. Now waste no time, not take no time, now write my line, rather come and bust a free.
So let's see what's happening here on the side of St. Croix. Some aromatics being cut here, but it's on the side of Team St. Croix, and some pumpkin as well being cooked, and a pan with a little bit of oil, it looks like, and yeah, getting hot, and some knife work being done here by the team on St. Croix.
Again, the major developments of this day: the Dominica government rejects recommendations for re-verification of the voters list. And in sports, Prince sensation Brianna Williams withdraws from the Jamaica team for the IAAF World Championships in Doha. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sports round the clock, subscribe to CaribVision.com. For more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again on Monday, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching. Have yourselves a good evening.